So I've been managing remote teams for hybrid teams for 25 years. And actually, my husband, who's a CEO of a tech company, he and I met in 2019. And during COVID, he started to hear how I manage my team. And he's like, that's really different. I thought that sales management was you hire people, you put them in a territory and they work out or they don't. And my focus has always been about empowering my team to be successful because I'm only as successful as my team members are. And so I built a system on how I do that. And I've also been on the receiving end of not such great sales leadership, sales management. And so I felt like I had a different approach. And I also did a keynote in July of 2021 and about retaining talent for sales leaders. Because, there were 4 million people resigning every month in the US. And when I talked about retaining top talent, I thought, what do I put on the slide? Support your team, care for your team. And I put love your team. And I got to tell you, I was nervous, super nervous to use the love word in a business context at my first in-person conference. But then I talked about what that meant. And I got such great reception. And people then asked for more details about, okay, so now what do you actually do? And what I realized as I reflected is what I actually do is I have conversations with my team. And I guess, being the engineer that I am, I started using myself as a guinea pig and I recorded on, a sheet of paper, or a spreadsheet actually, because I'm a rows and columns kind of gal, the kinds of conversations I had with my team and how much time I spent. And I consolidated that into 17 critical conversations that sales leaders need to have to build high-performing teams in today's world. And that's kind of the guts of the book.
So I was kind of rolling with you there, and I was triggered to remember a good friend of mine from years back, Mike Summershine, and Mike was an IBM guy. And he was my sales manager at one point, even though he was a good friend of mine. And he made the comment that, whenever I have a team, sales team, the way he was taught and what his experience was, but I've got 30% that are high performers. You just let them run. What do you need from me? You go for it. I got 30% I got to work with and they'll make their numbers. And then I pretty much on a sales team, you have 30% that are going to struggle or you have to replace. It sounds like your approach is achieving better numbers than that. Am I right?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Because 30% not achieving their numbers is a fail.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not great. And the other thing is because of the complexity, and I'm talking about enterprise sales in my world, but because of the complexity of B2B sales with so many more decision makers on the buyer side of the table, so to speak, even a really experienced, successful seller needs support to be successful. For example, a CFO at the buyer resigns, leaves, and a new CFO comes on board. How does that seller get a meeting with the CFO? Because sellers have a hard time traditionally getting in with senior executives. So who do we know on our side that knows, that CFO that we can, leverage to get a meeting? There's a whole strategy around building relationships with senior executives, broader relationships across an organization that often the seller needs help just strategizing and brainstorming. And I think that that's part of the role of a manager to help do that.